I'm covering 5 ultimate abilities that most players are using wrong, so let's get into it. First up, Bloodhound's ultimate, Beast of the Hunt. This straightforward ability has many mishaps, and the biggest way players tend to screw this up is by not scanning enough or not using the ultimate at the right time. For anyone who doesn't know, the Beast of the Hunt lasts for 30 seconds. However, while in Beast of the Hunt, you are able to scan every 8 seconds, but you also have a quicker scan animation. This means that you're able to provide tons of information to not only you, but your team as well. Now, some of you may be thinking, of course, scan while I'm in the ultimate. But because Bloodhound's vision turns black and white while enemies are highlighted in red, and Bloodhound gets a 30% speed boost, this often makes players tunnel vision during the ultimate. Some Bloodhounds will feel unstoppable while using this ability, but if you're doing that, you're going to need to check yourself, because this ultimate does not give you any extra armor or health despite the Superman effects. It's centered around providing rapid information to the whole team, on top of allowing you to move a bit faster than normal. As far as when to be using this ultimate, well, it's pretty straightforward. If you have it available and you are about to take a fight, use it. There should be no hesitation around using this ability when a fight is about to go down. I constantly see this error though, whether I'm solo queuing or if I'm coaching someone, where players are being too reserved about using their ultimate. And this ultimate does have a moderately long cooldown timer of 3 minutes. However, it's too big of an asset to not be using during a fight, particularly at the beginning of it. Be mindful of the 30% speed boost too. Just because you see someone in red doesn't mean you need to run straight at them. Speed boost will probably put you ahead of your teammates, and by just running at the enemies and not scanning, your teammates will not know as much as you do. This is one of the biggest issues I see with Bloodhound players. The last thing I'll end on is if you are going against an enemy team and they have a Bloodhound and that Bloodhound uses their ultimate, it's important that you respond to that ultimate with your own Bloodhound ultimate if yours is available too. You want to equalize the information that will be going back and forth between the Bloodhound and their teammates. Number 2, Crypto's ultimate, the EMP. Crypto is by far the most complex recon legend in all of Apex. Some players hate playing him, while others really thrive with his unique kit. Whether you like to play Crypto yourself or you have one on your team constantly, it's important to know how to use his ultimate. This ability requires a ton of calculation and coordination to pull off effectively. Some players seem to just send the drone out and EMP some neighboring team without following up at all off of that damage. Only times you should EMP without pushing shortly after are if you're trying to level up your Evo armor in a more competitive scenario like a sweaty ranked match, and or if you're trying to prevent a team from pushing you. You just want to stall the fight, so you send the EMP out and hopefully they'll pause to heal. The EMP does 50 shielded damage to each opponent that it hits. Therefore, I find this ultimate to be much more valuable on the offensive end rather than the defensive end. Now, there's always going to be a whole lot of nuance with this ability, but if you're going on the offensive route, here's how I think it should generally go. You want to try to be within a 20-meter range of your enemies, and Crypto will typically be further back since he can take damage from his own ultimate. You're going to want to try to make sure your teammates are prepared to quickly ambush the enemy right after the EMP goes off. Now, the tricky part about this is that the EMP slows and stuns both enemies and teammates alike. So if your teammates are going to take the stun, they want to do so out of line of sight from the enemies. However, they simultaneously need to be close enough that they can capitalize on the damage that the EMP just did. Stunning your teammates while you're engaging in the fight could be detrimental to the fight as a whole. But remember, 50 damage only takes about 6 seconds to heal from at max. So catching the enemy right after the EMP goes off, but before they can heal, is where your advantage lies. It's also great at disarming many Legends abilities such as Caustic, Wattson, Rampart, and many more. This legend is incredibly difficult to use effectively when you're solo queuing with randoms, mostly due to the common lack of communication that comes with that. And this is a huge reason why there is so much room for error around Crypto's EMP. But I find Crypto to be a much stronger legend when he has a coordinated team centered around him. Number 3, Ash's ultimate, the Phase Tear. Although Ash is a fairly new legend, there's still some common mistakes that I see being made with her ultimate. The Phase Tear has a lot of room for error, and that error can either fall on her teammates or on Ash herself. The portal has a 2-minute cooldown, so it's very accessible, which means it can be used often throughout your games. The tricky part is, it's obviously only one way. and that portal entrance only lasts for a mere 15 seconds. Teammates need to be close to Ashe when she uses her ultimate, as usually taking this portal completely alone could result in Ashe being at a huge disadvantage. I consistently see Ashe's portal alone into multiple opponents, and it usually goes poorly. The only time you should ever ult into an enemy team is if you think it's only one person you're going to have to fight. The ult has a little bit of a delay from when she sets it to when she comes out of it, meaning it's very readable for enemies to pre-aim the portal and absolutely fry you as you arrive. You have to try to be mindful of line of sight when using this ability, as once you arrive on the other side, there's no going back. A great example is I'll see an Ashe use her portal to gain a better vantage point on an enemy team, only for her to instantly get knocked when she arrives from the portal. This prevents her teammates from taking the portal and ultimately assisting in any potential revive situation. So try to take the portal together as a team, while simultaneously buying your team a few seconds before the engagement begins. A heavily underutilized aspect to this ability is using it when the fight isn't going in your team's favor. It can be a very quick tool for repositioning, and I rarely see Ashes utilize this aspect enough. Some people still don't know that this phase tear was buffed in Season 12. It now has a longer range on it, which means it's more dynamic in the ways in which you can take space during a fight. Now, Ashe is a fairly aggressive legend, so using this ability on the offensive is crucial, but also it can provide a great means of escape from a sticky situation. Play close to the Ashe on your team, and if you're playing as Ashe, be communicative with your team when you're about to use her ultimate. Number 4, Wattson's Pylon. Now, since Wattson isn't the most popular legend, I do have to give credit to those who already play her, as they generally have a great idea on how to use her kit. A great Wattson player tends to be one of the best teammates to have in all of Apex Legends. However, there are still plenty of random teammates that I get who just don't utilize her kit to its full potential. Now, placement is key with this ability, but also timing it correctly is important too. The biggest mistakes players make is they put the pylon in the line of sight of their opponents, or they just simply don't use it as frequently as they could. The ultimate is very easy to destroy, as it only has 150 HP. If you're holding a building and you're placing the pylon down, be aware of potential windows or doorway angles where it might get shot out from. Be mindful of the fact that when the pylon is out, fences have a much shorter cooldown, which allows for more fences to be put up around the ultimate. Try not to place the ultimate if you're not going to be stationary for a brief amount of time, unless you're being bombarded with throwables or damage dealing abilities. But if that does occur, you must try to be preemptive with her ultimate, as there's a little bit of a buffer between explosions going off and the ultimate actually stopping incoming ordinances. In other words, if I try to put the Wattson pylon down in the middle of a Gibraltar ultimate, well, the pylon will just get destroyed and will take a ton of damage from the Gibby ult. Now, the pylon also has the ability to heal up to 250 shields. This can provide a lot of value to the team while you guys are engaging in a fight, as it will ultimately shave off time that it will take for you all to heal up. Wattson's passive really complements her ultimate too, as it allows for her to carry 2 ultimate accelerants per 1 backpack slot. And when she utilizes an ultimate accelerant, she will instantly get her ultimate back. So it's incredibly important to be carrying ultimate accelerants at all times. Last but not least, Gibraltar's ultimate, the defensive bombardment. One of the biggest mistakes with Gibby's powerful ultimate is not so much how you use it, but when you use it. With one of the longest cooldowns in the game, you're not going to get this one back quickly, so timing and strategy is everything when making the decision to use this ability. Early game, you can definitely be a bit more lax on when you utilize this, but as late game draws closer and closer, Gibby's ultimate will be an exceptionally powerful tool in a very small space while the ring is closing. If used correctly, it can absolutely decimate a team hiding behind limited cover, or even zone out a team from rotating in. If used too early, just for a random offensive strike that is easily outmaneuverable, you may have wasted one of the biggest aces up your sleeve. Be on the lookout for teams to be distracted with one another while fighting, as this usually presents an optimal time to use the defensive bombardment. They may not have the luxury to avoid the airstrike because they're so consumed with fighting that other team. Now, if you identify a Gibraltar on an opposing team and you're debating on using your ultimate, you should heavily consider if you've seen that Gibby throw their bubble out in the last 20-ish seconds. If not, you should try to be conservative with this ultimate until that moment arises. Using any grenades or any other abilities in an attempt to force the opposing Gibby's bubble before tossing your ultimate is going to be the most sound strategy here. Now, once their bubble's gone and they presumably have limited real estate to play, now is your time to strike. Using Gibby's ultimate as a tool for area denial can work, but I only look to do this if I feel like it's the difference between life or death. Let's say your team needs to transition from point A to point B, but there's a team that's going to punish you when you try to make that rotation. Ulting them to buy you time and space could be a good play, but each missile in the airstrike does 40 damage, so wasting that damage dealing opportunity on something that isn't as valuable could be detrimental in an endgame situation. Try to use your judgment to the best of your ability, and if you're unfamiliar with Gibby and you're using him in a ranked match, confer with your teammates on what to do with this ultimate. Speaking of ranked, if you're interested in 3 ranked strategies that you must know for season 13, well, I covered it all in this video here. Check it out next. Peace.